Stunning transformation. Millionaire discovers incredible secret revealed by his housekeeper. James Walker sat in his sleek glass office on the top floor of his tech company, the city's skyline beyond him like a backdrop for his success. At 45, he was a millionaire, the embodiment of the American dream. But as he flipped through presentations, a hollow pang echoed in his chest. His life, filled with meetings and deals, felt like an endless race with no true finish line. He owned a sprawling mansion in a picture-perfect suburb of Chicago, but after a long day, it felt like a gilded cage, its luxury suffocating rather than comforting. The only real connection he felt was with Maria, his undocumented housekeeper from Guatemala. She was more than just help around the house. She was a breath of fresh air and laughter, offering a glimpse of warmth amid his isolation. Every day, they shared meals together, swapping stories that shaped their worlds. James found comfort in Maria's tales, while she absorbed the echoes of his lavish life withal. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that all of his wealth could not buy the sense of fulfillment he craved. One afternoon, with the leaves shimmering golden outside, Maria brushed a stray hair from her forehead while serving soup. There was something different in her expression, a certain gravity. "James," she began, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "I want to tell you something important." Psst! The sudden tension in the air dropped like a lead balloon. He paused, soup spoon halfway to his mouth. "What is it?" With modest pride, she revealed that she'd been secretly saving a portion of her paycheck for years, funding a scholarship for a promising student back home. The room felt like it was spinning as James absorbed her words. How could she, a woman living on the edge of survival, manage to give away what little she had? The weight of her generosity hit him like a punch to the gut. "But how can you do this?" he stammered, feeling that familiar sting of shame rise within him. Here he was, a man with a fortune, drowning in loneliness, while Maria found purpose in giving. "I do this because I can," she exclaimed as her eyes sparkled with unshed tears. "Real success is not about how much money you make. It's the difference you make in people's lives." His mind whirled. A dark cloud of doubt replaced the admiration he felt, transforming into a gaping chasm of self-reflection. Just as James opened his mouth to respond, a thought cut through the noise. Was he, with all his wealth and influence, contributing to the world around him, or merely taking up space? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maria's disappointment that he couldn't grasp her point stung more than the truth of her words. A misunderstanding spiraled. His privilege blinkered him and broke their bond. She considered leaving. The thought struck him like a lightning bolt. "Maria, please don't go. I need you." His voice was thick with desperation. He felt larger forces at play. It was so easy to ignore the grit and grace in the lives of people like her. The scholarship was a call to arms, an awakening to the shadows in his life, illuminating the contrasting paths they walked. As her determination flickered like candlelight, James swallowed hard. What would happen next? Would he emerge from his bubble of wealth? Or would he retreat, afraid to embrace the raw beauty of honesty and connection that defined real success? The answers weren't clear, but he knew one thing for sure: nothing would ever be the same again. James felt a tightness in his chest as he watched Maria's eyes, the flicker of hope dimming into a shadow of uncertainty. He hadn't meant to hurt her. He just didn't know how to reconcile the worlds they inhabited. The silence stretched between them, thick and heavy, like a blanket of tension that suffocated any chance of understanding. You don't have to leave," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. He knew he was stumbling, but he had to say something to break this moment. "Just tell me how I can help, how I can be part of this." Maria's shoulders softened a bit, but she didn't immediately respond. Instead, she focused on the small, intricate patterns of the tablecloth, tracing her fingers along the fabric as if searching for answers in the texture. It's not about money, James. It's about recognizing the worth in every life we touch. Her words struck him like a raw nerve, igniting a struggle within. How often had he measured his life as worth by the figures on a bank statement? And now, faced with Maria, reality unfurled before him, messy and real in a way that left him breathless. What does that even look like? He asked, desperation creeping into his tone. I don't know how to do what you do. You're. He hesitated, then added, You're incredible. She looked at him then, searching his eyes as though trying to gauge the sincerity behind his words. Maybe it starts with understanding the people in your community, James. There are always those who need help, especially in ways you might not see. As the afternoon light filtered through the tall windows, painting the room in golden hues, a thought began to stir within him. It was a small seed of inspiration. What if he used his resources for more than just profit? What if he could create opportunities instead of simply holding on to wealth? Okay, he said slowly, feeling a pulse of energy course through him. What if we start something together? A fund or an initiative for students like the one you're helping? We can ensure they've got what they need to succeed. Maria blinked, her expression wavering between surprise and hope. You would really want to do that? Why not? If I can help even one life, then maybe I can begin to change mine, he replied, the heaviness lifting slightly, making room for something new. Let us brainstorm together. I want to get involved, to understand more. She smiled, then a radiant light that seemed to fill the entire room. That's a beautiful idea, James. But remember, it's not just about throwing money at it. You'll have to be present, really present with them, too. His heart raced at the prospect, but a whisper of doubt lingered. What if he failed? What if I don't know how to relate to them? Maria laughed softly, the sound like music. You'll learn. Just be genuine. Share your story, and let them share theirs. It's all about connection. As the words washed over him, James felt an awakening. Maybe this was his path out of the gilded cage, a chance to burrow deeper into the fabric of the lives surrounding him, to have real conversations, and more importantly, to listen. But even amidst the stirring excitement, an uneasy thought lingered. Would Maria still feel like she belonged in his world of money and power? Was he truly ready to cross the chasm that separated them? He met her gaze, a silent question hanging in the air, one he knew he needed to explore. Before this journey could begin, both of them had to confront their fears, a leap of faith into the unknown, where real connection awaited just beyond the edge. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room, James felt the uneasy thrill of change. He could feel it building, a tide of hope and possibility. Would this opportunity forge a new path for both of them? Could he find a way to balance his life as a businessman with the compassion Maria inspired in him? With so many questions lingering, he realized that the real journey was just beginning. Would he find the courage to look beyond himself and embrace the mission that beckoned? The answer hung in the balance, and James was ready to dive deeper into unknown waters. With the last shades of sunlight casting a warm glow, James felt an unfamiliar energy surging through him. It was a mixture of uncertainty and excitement. He wanted to embrace this burgeoning purpose, but doubt nagged at the edges of his mind. What if he didn't know enough? What if his world of suit jackets and conference calls was too far removed from the lives he wanted to touch? Maria caught his fidgeting fingers with her gentle hand. Are you okay? She asked, her voice cutting through his spiraling thoughts. Yeah, I feel like I'm on the edge of something big, you know? James replied, his heart racing. But I also feel scared. I can't help but wonder if I'll really make a difference. Maria nodded, her eyes holding a depth of understanding he hadn't expected. Change is hard, and it's often messy. Just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Every small effort matters. He took a deep breath, feeling as if he stood at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap. Then let's start small. Where do we even begin? Her face lit up again, and for the first time since they started talking, James saw the familiar passionate spark that had drawn him to her in the first place. How about we host a community meeting? Just an open conversation, find out what people need, what's been pressing on their hearts. You'd be surprised what we can learn by just listening. James nodded slowly, a plan forming in his mind. I can set up a venue. We could even invite some local businesses to participate. They might want to help too. Exactly, Maria exclaimed. And then we can gather stories, understand real needs. It's all about connection. You'll see how fulfilling it can be. With a rush of determination, James felt alive with inspiration. The twinge of doubt was still there, but it was now overshadowed by an eagerness to dive in. As they continued brainstorming, James began to think of specific people he could reach out to. There was the bakery down the street, a place filled with warmth and community spirit, the local library, always bustling with eager learners, even the youth center, where kids gathered after school, looking for somewhere to belong. Time slipped past as they exchanged ideas and possibilities. With every suggestion, James could feel the weight of his past perceptions lifting. He envisioned a world where he wasn't just a millionaire in an office, but a catalyst for change, someone whose actions could ripple through the community. But a quiet voice in his mind reminded him of the challenges ahead. Would those he sought to uplift accept him? After all, he was the guy who walked the line between two very different worlds. Would Maria stand by him when the obstacles arose? The thought made his stomach twist. I just hope I'm not pushing you away, he confessed, a tremor of vulnerability in his tone. Maria's eyes softened. James, you're already making the effort to understand. That matters more than you realize. If we're truly in this together, then let us embrace the uncertainty as part of the journey. Real change requires risk. Her words rang true, echoing in his heart. Maybe that was the very essence of connection, risking vulnerability to create something beautiful. He could feel a spark between them, igniting a passion for these new ideas they were forming as well. As they sat together, planning and sharing stories, James couldn't help but wonder how this journey could change not just the community, but also the two of them. Would this shared mission strengthen their bond, or would unaddressed differences pull them apart? As they pushed their chairs back and stood up, ready to tackle the next steps, James caught a glimpse of Maria's smile, bright, full of hope. He knew this was more than just a venture, it was a path to something greater. Yet, a lingering question overshadowed the excitement. Would he be able to fully leave behind the expectations of his previous life to embrace the person he was becoming? The sun finally dipped below the horizon, and as darkness embraced the room, James understood that this was just the beginning of his transformation. What awaited him on this journey remained veiled, but his heart beat steadily, ready to take the next steps into the unknown. The next day felt different. James woke up to a world newly illuminated, his mind racing with possibilities. The promises of yesterday echoed in his thoughts, tugging at him like a child pulling on a parent's sleeve. He could hardly swallow breakfast, excitement bubbling in his chest. He met Maria at a small cafe that morning, just a couple of blocks from where he lived. The air was thick with the scents of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries. Maria was already there when he arrived, her eyes reflecting an eagerness that matched his own. "Morning," she beamed, lifting a cup in a playful toast. "Ready to change the world?" James chuckled, the weight of seriousness lifting slightly. "Let us start with coffee before we tackle the universe." Their laughter danced between them, but as he sipped his drink, a storm of thoughts swirled. The community meeting loomed ahead, and with it, a chance to connect, but the fear of failure lingered, taunting him. "Do you think we should take some promotional flyers to hand out?" he asked, trying to anchor the conversation to something tangible. "Make sure people know about the meeting?" "Yes," Maria replied, her enthusiasm palpable. "We can print them today. And you know what? Let us ask those local businesses to share them too." The notion made him feel lighter. James could already picture the baker smiling while handing out flyers with warm loaves of bread. As they discussed marketing strategies, James felt a warmth growing between them, a welcoming bond nurtured by shared struggles and hopes. But a part of him held back, like a shadow lurking at the edge of brightness. "Maria," he said hesitantly, What if the community doesn't accept us? I mean, I'm still just a guy in a suit. It's hard to shake off that image. Her eyes softened with consideration. You have to remember, people value authenticity over status. If you show them your willingness to be a part of their world, I believe they will respond. They might even surprise you. He admired her certainty, wishing he could share in it. I hope I can live up to that. You will. Maria reached across the table and squeezed his hand. It might take time, but this is a journey we're on together. Just be honest, be yourself. The connection in that moment was electric. The application of her words thrummed beneath the surface, a spark generating fresh confidence. But just as quickly, a note of hesitation crept in. As they left the cafe, he turned to face her. Okay, so what if we plan an event? Something to bring people in, maybe a potluck or community picnic? It could break the ice. Maria's eyes lit up. Yes. Food always brings people together. We can use it to foster conversation. He felt a swell of optimism, envisioning families gathered, laughter mingling with the scent of grilled burgers and fresh salads. They pored over details, mapping connections, ideas flowing like water from a spring. But as they put plans into place, James stumbled upon a thought that silenced his excitement. What would happen to their project once it stirred up real issues, once it uncovered layers of hardship in the community? He'd seen this before. Change could bring about conflict. Would that risk jeopardize their bond? Would everything he'd built fall apart? His mind raced, contemplating potential pitfalls, and he almost hesitated to voice his fears. Hey, Maria said, reading the shift in his energy. What's on your mind? For a brief moment, he hesitated, but ultimately decided vulnerability was essential. What if people don't like what we find? What if it's too messy? She paused, her gaze steady. Real change rarely comes without uncovering hard truths. But that's what makes it worthwhile. The trust in her voice brought a flicker of hope, awakening the belief that they could weather any storm together. Feeling renewed, James nodded, absorbing her resilience. But even as he stood beside her, he wondered, would they be prepared for the truths lurking beneath the surface, truths that could reshape their community and their partnership? As twilight descended, the air filled with anticipation. The glow of lanterns flickered in the distance, and for the first time, he felt the weight of possibility on his shoulders. Was it truly the beginning of something life-changing, or just a recipe for disaster? With that thought lingering, James couldn't help but feel drawn to what lay ahead. What awaited them as they approached the edge of this new venture still loomed large, full of promise and the potential for danger. James and Maria met the next morning at the local printer, the sound of machinery humming around them. The smell of fresh ink and paper swirled in the air, mixed with the earthy aroma of coffee from a nearby cart. It was a buzzing hive of creativity, and it felt alive. As they huddled over the design of their flyers, something shifted in him. The stark contrast of colorful paper and the echoes of their laughter made him feel lighter. This was happening. Their plans were taking shape, and he couldn't help but smile. Bold colors draw people in, Maria suggested, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Let us make sure these flyers stand out. Let us do it. He agreed, feeling the surge of energy between them. The more they worked, the more his anxiety melted away, replaced by a bubbling anticipation. Once they had the design finalized, the printer assured them the flyers would be ready by noon. With that, they decided to hit the streets, collecting goodwill as they handed out their creations to small business owners. The bakery was first. As they walked in, the familiar bell chimed, and the warm scent of fresh bread embraced them. The baker, a rotund man with a thick gray beard, greeted them with a goofy smile. What brings you two here? We're organizing a community picnic, James explained, his voice steady but infused with excitement. Would you be willing to help spread the word? The baker nodded, placing a loaf of golden brown bread on the counter. Why not? Food and neighbors? That's a recipe for fun. His laughter was contagious, and soon they were all chuckling over shared stories of neighborhood quirks. As they left the bakery, James felt buoyant. The sunlight seemed to glimmer brighter. They visited the local bookstore, the corner coffee shop, even a quirky antique store. Each stop was a thread weaving them deeper into the community fabric. "Look at us," Maria said, beaming as they walked. "We're building connections." But in the back of his mind, those earlier fears crept back. Each friendly interaction felt like a mask over an uncertain reality. What if some of those connections stung? What if it revealed wounds too raw to address? "James, you okay?" Maria's voice broke his reverie. She had that concerned look again, the one that made his heart skip. "Yeah, just thinking," he said, stuffing his hands into his pockets. "Let it out," she encouraged gently. "I can handle it." He sighed. "I just keep thinking about the mess we might uncover. Not everyone has a happy story to share. What happens if they feel we're intruding?" Her grip on his arm tightened, and she faced him squarely. "We can't shy away from reality. People need to feel they're heard. We should approach this with compassion. Besides, there's strength in their stories too." Her passion ignited a flame of conviction within him. He knew she was right. It was their duty to meet those realities with open hearts. They paused by a park, vibrant with life, kids playing, families picnicking, laughter spilling like sunlight. "Let us do this together," he murmured, picturing the event. "We want to create a safe space." "Exactly." Maria's encouragement acted like a balm, easing his apprehension. "We'll bring people together, help them feel connected and seen." His heart swelled at the thought of transformation. What began as a small idea now felt like a movement. But he still couldn't shake the lurking shadows. Later that afternoon, as they ventured deeper into the neighborhood, a man approached them, a weary-looking figure, his clothes tattered and dirt-speckled. James' heart thumped heavily in his chest. "Excuse me, you two," the man spoke, his voice raspy yet firm. "I overheard you talking about a picnic. Is this for real? Are you really trying to bring everyone together?" "Yes," Maria exclaimed without hesitation. "We are. Would you like to share your story with us?" The man hesitated, his eyes darting. James held his breath. Would this stranger help deconstruct their hopes or inspire them further? The atmosphere crackled with tension, something big on the horizon. The man took a deep breath and began to speak. James felt a wave of anticipation crash over him. What was about to unfold could change everything or tear them apart. At that moment, it was clear, the journey ahead would be filled with truths far deeper than they ever imagined. Would they be ready to face it? James felt the air thickening as the man's voice trembled on the edge of a revelation. Every word he spoke held a weight, like stones sinking into deep water. "I've seen too many gatherings get torn apart. People think they want to be together, but they just want a place to hide," the man said, his gaze piercing through James. "What are you really hoping to accomplish?" Maria stepped closer, determination radiating from her. "Connection. Understanding. Real conversations." Her voice was steady, but James sensed the fire beneath it. "We believe that sharing stories can heal." The man's face softened slightly, yet doubt lingered in his eyes. "Healing sounds good, but just know some stories hurt." James nodded, swallowing hard. "We're not afraid of hurt. But we want to listen. If you're willing to share, if it helps, we're here." He caught Maria's eye, both of them silently urging this man to open up. The tension in the air was palpable, electricity buzzing just beneath the surface. "Okay," he finally relented, shifting uncomfortably. "My name's Henry. And I'm nobody special, but I have seen things." His voice wavered, and for a moment, James and Maria felt the full weight of his struggles pulling them in. Henry leaned against the lamppost, the fading sunlight painting shadows on his features. "I lost my job months ago. They said I was too old, too slow. I'm just trying to keep my family afloat, but it feels like I'm drowning." Pain etched every word he spoke, a life of struggle tumbling out like an old, cracked knapsack spilling its contents. James's heart ached for him. "That is tough, Henry. I can't imagine what that feels like." "You can't," Henry replied, his voice steadying. "But maybe you can help others understand." Maria was moved. "You're right. Everyone faces hardships. Sharing your story could inspire someone else to reach out, to connect. She stepped forward, empathy filling her expression. You're doing something great just by being willing to talk about it. Henry shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Do you really think it matters? I've been to gatherings before. People just get caught up in their own worlds. They don't want to know the truth. They want smiles and happy endings. Maybe they do, James interjected, his voice growing more confident. But what if we can be different? What if we make space for all stories, even the messy ones? Maybe that's where true connection lies. Henry looked thoughtful, uncertainty giving way to consideration. It's a risk, you know. Not everyone will appreciate honesty. Risk is part of any journey, Maria said firmly, her eyes gleaming. But the payoff can be incredible. We're ready to embrace whatever stories come our way, the joyful and the painful alike. For a brief moment, a flicker of hope ignited in Henry's gaze. He took a breath, as if contemplating that spark. Could it really lead somewhere? Just then, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A child riding a bike had crashed, and startled laughter mixed with cries filled the air. The three of them turned toward the scene, and in that moment, the rawness of Henry's narrative faded into the background, replaced by the urgency of the unfolding incident. James felt a heavy mix of anxiety and relief. Could everything they'd just discussed be overshadowed by life's unpredictability? Or was it another step toward clarity for Henry? Let us go help, Maria said with urgency, already moving. As James followed, he felt the weight of their conversation lingering. Every story mattered, even in the chaos surrounding them. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch towards the unknown. As their small group rushed forward, James knew their journey was far from over. Would the connection they had begun to weave with Henry blossom into something more? Would they feel ready to confront deeper truths waiting just beneath the surface? James looked back at the man, catching Henry's eye, wondering what stories yet remained to unfold. What painful truths were still hidden in those heartbeats? James rushed toward the scene, his heart pounding in tandem with the urgent cries and chatter. The child lay on the ground, bike twisted awkwardly beside him, tears streaming down his cheeks. Maria was already kneeling beside the boy, offering words of comfort, while a small crowd began to gather, their murmurs creating a surreal background to the unfolding drama. Hey, buddy. Can you tell me your name? Maria's voice was soft, soothing. She brushed the dirt from the child's knees, gingerly checking for scrapes. James moved close, taking a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. It was surprising how quickly life could shift from introspective conversations to immediate action. My name's Sammy, the boy sniffled, eyes wide and panicked. James crouched down to meet his gaze. Sammy, you're going to be okay. We're here to help you. Can you wiggle your toes for me? The child nodded and slowly obeyed. The relief that washed over James was palpable when he noted the boy's ability to follow directions. As Maria tended to Sammy, Henry had stepped back but watched intently, his uncertainty momentarily forgotten. For the first time, James saw the flicker of compassion replace the heavy sadness in his eyes. Perhaps witnessing this small act of care could push him closer to sharing his own burdens. See? You're a tough guy, James encouraged. But just as he spoke, an ominous cry pierced the air. A woman stepped through the crowd, her eyes wide and frantic as she laid her eyes on Sammy. Sammy! She rushed forward, scooping him into her arms, cradling him as if the world outside their embrace barely existed. James wanted to smile, to keep the warmth of connection alive, but he could feel the air shift again. The earlier bond with Henry fragile, yet forming seemed to falter under the weight of a mother's love and worry. He's okay, just a little scared, Maria said, her voice filled with reassurance. But the mother's gaze drifted from Maria to Henry, suspicion crawling in with the wind. Are you watching my boy? Her tone escalated, resentment bubbling to the surface. Henry shrank back, the light of hope extinguished in an instant. No, she was helping him, James interjected, stepping forward, but the woman wouldn't relent. She was protecting her child, drowning in a pool of adrenaline and fear, and all James could feel was the tightening knot in his chest, the urgency of emotions rising again, the tension biting at their fragile, newly formed connection. Henry's shoulders slumped, and he glanced away, as if pulling back into a world where he was alone again. "Listen," James said firmly, turning back to the gathering crowd. "We're all just people here, wanting to help each other. We all face struggles." He caught Henry's eye once more. "Everyone is fighting their own battles. But this is a moment where we can step in and lift someone up." For a fleeting second, Henry seemed to process those words. The shifting crowd, the panic of the moment, the fractured world seemed to dissolve around them. "Is that it?" Henry replied quietly, his voice trembling. "Is that how it starts?" Just a moment before James could reply, laughter erupted from Sammy, who was now calmed by his mother's soothing words. A sense of community formed as more people stepped forward, offering help and comfort to those around. "Yeah," James said softly, feeling a spark reignite. "Maybe it is. But it's also where we all begin." Henry nodded slowly. There was potential something new blossoming in that brief exchange. As the crowd buzzed with chatter, the weight of their stories still loomed over them, thicker than the dusk approaching. James felt the pull to draw Henry back into the conversation, to coax out the stories trapped within him. The air crackled with something more than just the fading light. Could they really form bonds, share pain, and transform lives? Would Henry take the leap with them? As laughter mixed with concern, Maria turned to James, a spark in her eye, as if she sensed the opportunity to. "Shall we?" she asked, a smile breaking through. But before they could advance, a figure emerged from the back of the crowd, a looming presence that seemed entirely out of place. "Are you ready for the truth?" The voice was low, shaking with a thunderous certainty that made every head turn. In that moment, James realized, the true story was just beginning. James felt a chill ripple through the air, a contrast to the moment's warmth. All eyes were drawn to the newcomer, a tall man with a heavy coat that seemed oddly out of place in the balmy afternoon. He swept the crowd with a gaze that held weight, his expression a mix of seriousness and challenge. "Who are you?" a voice called from the crowd, laced with distrust. "Just someone who knows what you're really dealing with," the man responded, his voice steady and deep. "You think you understand pain? Or loss? You have no idea." A few gasps echoed among the onlookers, some shifting uncomfortably. James glanced at Maria, who had also stopped in her tracks, her brows furrowed in confusion. This was supposed to be a moment of healing. Why was he bringing darkness into their light? "Look," James started, stepping forward, trying to break the growing tension. "Whatever you think you know, now's not the time. This boy Sammy needs support. We're all here to help each other." The man chuckled softly, a sound that cut through the air like a knife. "Helping each other? Is that what you think you're doing? You're caring for a child today, but what about tomorrow? Tomorrow comes with its own battles. Every one of you is hiding something. Or running from something." James felt the weight of those words settle in the pit of his stomach. There was a raw truth there, one that struck chords in the hearts of the crowd, and he could see it reflected in the faces. The unease spread like wildfire, guilt flared in the air, fueling worries of inadequacy and unshared struggles. "I've lost everything," Henry's voice broke the tension, small yet striking. James turned to him, surprised to see a flicker of defiance rise up in his eyes. "I don't need a lecture. I'm just trying to what?" The man interrupted, stepping closer to Henry, looming over him like a thundercloud. "Just trying to mask your pain with sympathy? Or maybe you think you can outrun the life you've left behind?" There was something piercing about that question, like it cut right through Henry's defenses. The flicker of defiance in his eyes was quickly replaced by something darker, an emotion James struggled to identify. "I'm here for Sammy," Henry murmured, but the tone felt empty, almost lifeless. It was clear he was wrestling with his own truths, the shadows of his past crawling back into the forefront of his mind. "Then show it," the man challenged, his voice echoing like a judge in a courtroom. "Show that you understand what it means to truly help someone. Because right now, It seems like you're just here to watch. The crowd held its breath, the tension rising. James felt his heart racing. This man was peeling back the layers, exposing wounds that everyone wanted to keep hidden. Enough! Maria suddenly shouted, stepping between them. Her eyes sparked with fire that James hadn't seen before. You don't get to dictate what this moment means for us. We're here, showing up for each other. Anyone can stand on the sidelines and shout. It takes real courage to act. Her words sparked something in the crowd. People started murmuring in agreement, a swelling wave of determination rising. James looked at Henry, whose eyes were wide, perhaps seeing a reflection of himself in Maria's fierce spirit. Maybe this was their moment to push back against their shadows. The man stepped back slightly, surprised by the sudden shift in the crowd's energy. You think this is enough? He asked, but there was a tremor in his voice that suggested he was losing control of the narrative. We're all just starting, James replied, locking eyes with the man. You can choose to uplift or to attack. But in this moment, we're choosing connection. As the words hung in the air, a palpable sense of hope began to blossom, momentarily overshadowing the man's dark energy. But with every eye watching, James felt the challenge of truth lingering, a truth that each of them had to face, either together or one by one. Just then, a loud crash echoed from somewhere past the crowd, drawing everyone's attention and causing hearts to race anew. What? Now? Someone whispered, fear creeping back into the air. James felt his pulse quicken. The true test of their bonds was about to unfold, and what awaited them might change everything. What had just begun could very well be their greatest challenge yet. The noise silenced the murmurs as everyone turned to face the source of the crash. A wooden crate lay splintered on the ground, contents spilling out. Look! Someone shouted, pointing. Nestled in the chaos was a collection of old books. They looked ancient, tattered around the edges, dust swirling in the air as they caught the afternoon's light. But one book lay open, its pages fluttering slightly in the breeze, as if beckoning them closer. What is that? Maria whispered, her fierce demeanor shifting to curiosity. James took a step forward, drawn to the intricate illustrations that adorned the pages. As he peered down, his breath caught in his throat. It wasn't just any book, it was an album of family portraits, disparate people, their eyes following him, faces exuding stories. He recognized some faces, familiar from the small town. A hint of fear knotted inside him. Could it be? He murmured, brushing his fingers across a refined, old-world image. Suddenly, the tall man in the coat seemed less menacing, if only for a moment. That book holds the weight of this town's history, he said, his tone softening just a fraction. It carries the truths you're all ignoring. Henry stepped forward, taking a breath that shook slightly. What do you mean, truths? What has that got to do with us? The man's eyes flickered with something. Regret? Concern? Everything. He nodded toward the album. These people lived, loved, and lost. Stories of strength and weakness. They faced battles too, just like you all. A ripple of anxiety coursed through the crowd. The man was right. Hidden pasts lay thick in the air, just like the dust settling over the old town. Why are you doing this? James asked, determined not to back down now. Why show us pain when we're trying to heal? Because healing requires understanding, the man replied, his voice steady. You can't ignore your roots and expect to flourish. Those pages contain the keys to your survival, not just misery. To connect, you must first confront. A heavy silence settled as that truth hung in the balance. James could see the internal struggle reflected in many faces. A mix of shame and curiosity blossomed, gripping them all. Maria stepped closer, empathy softening her features. Maybe we're stronger than we think. If these people found ways to overcome the challenges of their time, perhaps we can find our way too. Henry shook his head, as if trying to ward off memories. What if we can't? What if you can? The tall man interrupted, piercing eyes locked onto Henry. You can't let fear dictate your path. You'll never know what you're capable of until you step into the light. James took a daring step forward, glancing back at the crowd. We can start here. With this book, we can uncover these stories together. We'll face whatever has tried to define us. The energy shifted again, this time sparking a quickening of hope. James looked around at the group, seeing George, Amy, and even a few others he hadn't noticed before. They were all standing a little taller, eyes shifting from doubt to determination. Then, cracking through their swirling emotions came another noise. A scream not from the crowd's tension, but a genuine distress. The voice sounded young, urgent. Sammy! As fear erupted again, urgency replaced the lingering hope. James's heart raced as he turned toward the sound echoing from behind the crowd. Sammy, a little boy fighting his own battles, needed help. Stay here! James ordered instinctively as he tore toward the sound. A quick glance back showed everyone else ready to follow. The challenge shifted, and the push began anew. The unfolding story of Revelations was rushing in, but they might have to face a new kind of storm if they were to find Sammy. Just then, a determined voice broke through the haze. What if there's power in our worth, James? Henry yelled back, his voice carrying strength now. James felt the weight of the moment settle, and this was bigger than they had anticipated. Would they have the courage to connect their past with their future? And at that instant, in the heart of uncertainty, they raced forward, driven by the cries of a child and their own hidden truths ready to be uncovered. As the crowd surged forward, trailing James and Maria, the air thickened with determination. James's heart pounded as they veered toward the sound of Sammy, each footfall reverberating with urgency. He found himself echoing Henry's question, was there indeed power in their worth? Could they truly forge connections that would change their lives and others forever? James's thoughts scattered as he pushed through a cluster of onlookers, scanning the park for Sammy. Maria was beside him, her face taut with concern, eyes alight with the fierce determination they had shared since their journey began. Bursting through the last of the gathering crowd, they came upon a swing set. There, near the base, Sammy stood crying, surrounded by fearful parents, his mother clinging tightly to him. It's just a bee! She exclaimed, shaking her head as he shrieked. Just a little bee. James stepped forward, heart racing. Sammy, buddy! What's going on? A bee chased me. He sobbed, shaking as if clinging to the weight of the moment. I thought it was going to sting. Maria knelt down, lowering herself to Sammy's level, her warm smile soothing like the gentle spring breeze. It's all right, little man. Bees can be scary, but they won't hurt you if you stay calm. James knew this moment mattered. It was more than just comforting a boy. It was about confronting fear and teaching resilience. Sammy, you're brave. You can face this bee just like you face other challenges every day. You've got people here who care. We're all here, supporting you. The soft murmurs of light laughter and encouragement rippled through the crowd as eyes shifted from concern to confidence. With every moment, James saw the connections their project was building, not just for the community, but within himself. Can you show us how strong you are? Maria asked, her tone coaxing an ounce of courage from the little boy's heart. Yeah, Sammy said hesitantly, his tears matching a brave smile as he wiped his cheeks. Almost miraculously, at that moment, the glistening sun broke through the clouds. Do you want to try again? Maria continued, sensing his flicker of hope. Just remember, who's stronger, the bee or you? With renewed vision in his eyes, Sammy took a deep breath, standing a little taller. Me! The small yet immense declaration felt like a trophy won, reverberating through the hearts of everyone around. As laughter returned, James found Henry stepping close, a shadow of warmth growing in his face. I've been afraid of my own battles too. James turned to him, seeing a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability covered by newfound strength. You're not alone, Henry. Everyone has stories laced with fear, triumph, and pain. A murmur of agreement echoed from the crowd as they began feeling the pulse of the moment, a wave rising together, weaving the fabrics of their lives into a larger tapestry. He saw the connection forming, not just among them all, but also something powerful evolving between him and Maria, a synchronicity he had never expected. Take that leap, Henry, James urged softly. Share your story when you're ready. You're part of this tapestry now. For a moment, they stood in shared silence, breaths mingling as the crowd drew closer, gently creating a circle of support. "I've been running," Henry finally admitted, his voice breaking. "Truth is, I lost my job because I didn't talk to anyone. I thought they wouldn't care if I was falling apart." "You thought wrong," Maria chimed in, her voice like a comforting balm. "We all care. Each story matters. This community can lift you up." James felt his heart bloom with hope. They had crossed a threshold. This was more than just a band-aid over wounds. They were learning to face their truths together. The silence was thick, but not with despair. As if the universe itself knew what was at stake, it brought back the warmth of sunlight. Hands found each other in solidarity. Whispers shared laughter. Anything could unfold from here. Together, they strengthened connections through vulnerability, laughter, and even scars. Mistakes made in the process were just stepping stones towards something greater. They could rise above their fears. The crowd thrived on energy, sensing the resilience in even the smallest of stories. James turned to Sammy, who now sported a brave grin. "You ready to conquer that playground?" "Yeah!" the boy shouted, newfound courage pulsing through every vein. As the crowd erupted into cheers, laughter ringing through the park, James felt a wave wash over him. He glimpsed Maria's radiant smile, and suddenly it all clicked. This journey wasn't just about projects, fundraisers, or community gatherings. It was about awakening authentic connections. "Let us keep building this," James said breathlessly. "We're on the starting line. Everyone is invited. It's all about sharing our stories together." Amid the smiles and laughter, Maria squeezed his hand, a silent agreement, a potent promise that they would embrace every story shared, the good, the messy, the painful, and build each other up inside those tales. As twilight embraced the sky, they leaned into collective hopes. A gentle wind swept through them, invigorating each heartbeat with possibility. United, they ventured forward, determined to bridge gaps, uncover truths, and transform lives through connection. The journey had just begun, and together, they were ready for what lay ahead. Don't miss your chance to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to our channel to catch exclusive stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts like yours. We want to hear your reactions. Comment below about how this story touched you. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformation. Now is your moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.